All right,
All right, we are
wonderful.
recording and transcript is on.
Sounds good. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for our freshman parent night. We are the 4 counselors for Archie Williams High School. I'm Molly Baker. We also have Sheila Souter, Kyle Kassabaum, and Molly Yasuda with us tonight. This picture on the front is a picture of all of us. It's kind of outdated, but the first picture there that you'll see the 4 of us with Sandy Howard. Sandy Howard is the first person that you'll see when you'll walk in our office, as well as the person that you'll speak to if you ever call the counseling office. She's our secretary, and she holds us all together. Then next to her is me, Molly Baker. In the middle is Molly Yasuda. In the blue to the right of her is Sheila Souter. And then to the right in his classic plaid shirt is Kyle Kassabaum. The woman to the right of him is Lisa Newmeyer. She is our college and career specialist. And below her is Greg Davison, who is our school to career liaison. Right. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what our role is as school counselors. And we work with your students throughout the 4 years in 3 different areas. In the academic area, as well as personal area, and then college and career. So we're going to help them to recognize and access resources related to those 3 areas. Throughout their 4 years, we're also going to help them understand how current choices impact their future. A lot of times this has to do with scheduling classes, but it could be in any other day-to-day conversation that we have with students as well. We know that a lot of young people are overscheduled. So whenever we talk to students, we really make sure to stress the importance of balance, and really in an effort to lower their stress and anxiety, making sure that they have time in their day for all the things that they have to do, as well as all the things that they really want to do. We also want to help them learn how to communicate effectively. So you all should know that by now your students have their own school email address, and we want to really encourage them to use that email for communication, not only with teachers, but with other school staff like ourselves, and really to be the ones who are taking the lead here on the communication. If you all could make sure you're on mute, that would be helpful. Thank you. We're also going to work with students on identifying personal strengths, values, challenges, and boundaries. All right, we talked about a couple of people that you should know already. If you all went to the Archie Williams 101 night a couple weeks ago, then you'll know our principal, Miss Lysandra White, our assistant principals, Nate Severin and Chad Stewart. And then on a previous slide, we showed you who Lisa Newmeyer and Greg Davison are. And then there's us, the 4 counselors, our secretary, Sandy Howard. And then some other good folks to know are Katrina Southard and Danya Axelrod, who work in our wellness center. So as counselors, we're really here to support your whole child throughout the 4 years that they're with us. And if they ever need any additional referral services, then we can do that. So if they're ever going through something serious and want to see somebody in wellness for therapy, we can make referrals for that. And that would be if they, like I said, if they need somebody to talk to on a more long-term, regular basis. Again, working with students on their academic and social and emotional needs, anytime they need support with that, we're people they can go to and talk to in a confidential setting. We help them with their enrollment in all graduation requirements. So each year we help them pick which classes they want for the following year, keeping in mind graduation requirements as well as college requirements. And we're going to help them with figuring out what they want to do after high school. So that seems like a long time away, but those 4 years will really fly by. And we really make sure to help students no matter what their path is, whether it's college, or a gap year, or going straight into the workforce. So in freshman year, we will be presenting on our role in their classrooms. So that'll be happening, I think, next month. We'll be encouraging them to get involved and set goals, and we'll show them a 4-year pattern of their courses if they're interested in what classes they need to take in future years. We also will hold individual meetings with students at their request. So if they ever need something, they're welcome to drop by or email us to set up a phone call or a Zoom. We're really going to help them with self-advocacy. That's a big thing that we want you to help your students with this year, is really being their own advocate and maybe taking a back seat and letting them really take the lead in this area. It's a skill that's going to serve them throughout high school and beyond. And so we really want to make sure that we're supporting our students to do that. All right, so here are some things that we think make for a successful freshman year. Again, first is that direct communication. So really, if there's ever an issue in a class with a teacher, that the student ideally would be reaching out to the teacher on their own. And then also reaching out to us if they need anything. Then also making use of their resources. So as some of you may have read in a recent email home, every Wednesday we have tutorial. And that's really the best time for students to be meeting with their teachers and getting help if they ever need it. So if they're struggling in math, they can go to their math teacher. If they've got a test coming up in history, they can go to that class. That's really the best way to get help in a class. In years past, we've had an after-school homework club as well, 2 days a week. And we don't have details on that yet, but please be looking out for more information about that. Other resources that they can utilize are the library, the wellness center, and then peer resource, which we'll get into in a little bit. Also, knowing their syllabus, their teacher expectations, and how to look up grades and assignments. So really familiarizing themselves with Canvas. And you all as parents have access to Canvas as well. So if you haven't already, it would be a good idea for you to look with your student on Canvas. There's a calendar feature where you can see all the different assignments that are coming up and help them stay organized. But really, you know, it's up to your student to be tracking their assignments, knowing what's missing and what's still due. Also, excellent attendance. And then the final one here is really important. So we find that students really get the most out of school if they have some connection beyond academics. So what we mean is having them get involved. So with drama or music or sports or clubs, you know, eventually with the idea of hoping to find a leadership position in those, maybe later on in their time in high school. But really this helps students feel connected to school. And if later on in the year, or later on probably in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a club fair. And that's where students from all of the different clubs on campus will put tables out in the quad and they'll advertise for their club. So if your student hasn't found a connection to school yet, be looking out for the club fair and make sure that you encourage them to attend. All right, I see some questions in the chat, and we will hold on to those and we'll answer them at the end. And then we'll also copy those and if we don't get to them all, and we will post them and share them later on as well. Okay.
Was this me?
Oh, is it me? Sorry. Okay, so again, you know, we know that one of the biggest things in high school is the transition, and it's a big transition. So some of the things for you guys to know as parents is that the expectations are higher. So definitely it takes a lot more to get an A in high school than it did in middle school. If students don't complete their homework and they have low test scores, then they're probably going to end up with low grades. One thing to keep an eye out for that we see sometimes freshman year is that students come home and say, well, I don't have any homework. So if that's the case for many days in a row, something's probably up. So I would, if you can, log into Canvas, double check on that, and make sure that you're helping your student track their assignments. And again, with this transition, we really want to encourage them to take more initiative and responsibility over their education.
Okay, so my name is Kyle Kasbaum. Reintroducing myself, I guess. Lost my page. Good to see you all. Thanks for coming tonight. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the difference between high school graduation requirements versus college admission requirements. There's a lot of similarities, but there's a couple of little minor differences that are important to be aware of. So to graduate from high school, you need 4 years of history, and you'll need 4 years of English, 3 years of math, with the minimum being Algebra 1, 2, 3 years of science, 1 year of visual performing arts, a year of PE, and a number of electives. As you'll see down there, foreign language is a requirement for college, but actually not for graduating from high school. So the big differences are for college admissions, foreign language is a requirement, PE is not. And then less years of social studies are required to be admitted to college than to graduate from high school. With foreign language, that's one question comes up quite a bit. We offer French and we offer Spanish at Archie Williams High School. I've had students in the past that are already fluent in German or in Japanese or a variety of different languages. If it is a language that the UC and CSU approve, then your student could take a test to show that they are fluent in that language, and therefore they wouldn't have to go through the 2 years of required foreign language. Or if your student would like to study a language that we don't offer, so say they want to study Italian or sign language, which is something that also is counted, they can do that elsewhere and get credits for the language outside of our school. So if that is something that your student would like to explore, please talk to us first, because we can help find a school that we know is approved by the UC and the CSUs. And as far, I was just going to say, as far as math goes, like I said, the minimum to graduate is Algebra 1, 2. And then for college, we need to at least get to intermediate algebra or advanced algebra. So those are the requirements. And for the most part, we will make sure that your students are on that path every year towards hitting their graduation requirements. But we also think it's important for them to manage this once a year as well. Take a look at their transcript and make sure that they're on pace. So they're kind of working with us on that path towards graduation or college, if that's the end goal. So parent-student conversations. This is just some things that we think are helpful for parents to talk about with their students as they're freshmen and getting into high school and getting to know how high school is different from middle school and what it means in terms of the work that you're doing now, how that affects the future. So we think the number one most important thing is helping support your students in developing autonomy and those adult communication skills. That means having the ability to come ask questions if they're feeling behind or feeling concerned about something. Sending their counselor or their teacher an email if there's a concern that they have. Our thought is that the more that the students are coming and asking these questions, and the more that the students are sending these emails and developing a relationship with us, the more we get to know them. We're going to be their counselor, each of us individually for the next 4 years. And with their teachers, they're going to be with that teacher for at least the whole year, in some cases more than that. So the more that the student is reaching out with questions and concerns, the more we're able to get to know them and develop that relationship. Sitting down and talking about priorities is a real big topic, I think, at the beginning of high school, because as Molly had mentioned, the expectations are a little higher academically. That's not to say that we want students to give up any of the extracurricular activities, any of their passions, any of the things that they love to do in order to just study, study, study. But they are getting to the age where sometimes they have to kind of figure out what's the most important for them to continue doing. Is it to continue playing 4 sports along with, their babysitting and dance and all of that kind of stuff? Or are there some things that maybe they're not going to have quite as much time for? That gets to the next thing. Overscheduling and overdoing is an absolute huge issue that we run across quite a bit. So we think that parents helping the students say no to certain activities or certain AP classes, those sorts of things, is really helpful. We've got a lot of really gifted, intelligent, and talented kids at our school, but the fact is there's only 24 hours of the day. So it doesn't matter how smart you are, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you can only do so much within that time of the day. And obviously, as we know, the teenagers especially really need their sleep. Staying abreast of the calendar and community compass. So paying attention to the emails. I know that there is a flood of them that come in. So I am empathetic to that, as I have a student who just started kindergarten and have been getting those emails coming from her school. But just trying to be on top of what's going on, whether that's when there's a minimum day, when there is a special event at the school, when there is some sort of community event. It's just helpful because the students have a lot that they're keeping track of too. So, helping them out by also knowing what's going on in the school community, and also when you can help and be a part of that, because there are really great times and great opportunities for parents to come in and support the school. We don't focus too much on the college prep stuff with the students as freshmen. I think that, we want to make sure that they are aware of what their requirements are and the things that they should be doing in order to be working towards that path. But they got a lot of new stuff coming their way. They've got a whole brand new set of teachers, a much bigger campus, a new way of learning, a lot of new kind of social implications. So the college stuff is important in the sense that we want to make sure that students are studying and staying on top of their work. But at the same time, I think having too much of a focus on it right now can cause a little bit more stress and anxiety than need. We want to explore or talk about exploring risks and not just focusing on college. So not everything has to be, I should take this class or do this thing for college. Take the class of the topic that you really enjoy. Do the extracurricular activity that might grow into something bigger that you're really interested in, rather than just doing all of the things that those how to get into college books tell you to do. And the rest, I think, is sort of self-explanatory. Again, like even the colleges tell us that they want more well-rounded students. It's not just about having super high GPA and taking all of the most difficult classes. It's about doing interesting things and showing that you have a passion or a skill or a talent or a real interest in something. It's not just about doing all of the most difficult classes and taking on all the most difficult things. So, so what if my student is doing poorly in class? I think the first thing is just having a conversation with them, asking them, is the content really hard? Is there just too much work? Or are you having a hard time keeping track of where the work is based on all of these new technological platforms that we're using? And trying to kind of get to the core of what is really causing the problem. And then also trying to create some study homework plan at home. Maybe between 6 and 7 every day is that time where the student has to sit down and do something academic. Even if they say there's no homework, I guarantee you there's reading that could be done. I guarantee you there's something that they could be looking into that at least keeps the juices flowing and keeps that ritual of that, that 1 hour a night of sitting down and doing some work. Encouraging your student to use the academic supports we have. There's tutorial every week. That's basically in office hours for the students to go in and really work with whatever teacher they feel they need help from. So if math is the concern, it's checking in with the math teacher. If they're having a hard time with a project in social studies, it's going in and talking to that teacher. As Molly mentioned, we're still kind of figuring out when the homework club and peer tutoring opportunities are going to happen, but those are coming. The first person definitely to talk to if there is a major concern in the class is probably the teacher. We're usually made aware if a student is struggling in a class, but more so if a student is struggling in a handful of classes is typically when we would come in, because the teacher's going to know more about the assignments, what the student is doing or not doing in class or outside of class, and really give you kind of the actual, this is what's happening in class right now. So they're probably the best person to contact first. If problems do persist, and if some of these issues in class start turning into some mental health issues or some over scheduling issues and those sorts of things, we absolutely want to be a part of that support team for your students. So that would be a good time to reach out. And the teachers are really great about letting us know when they're seeing concerns about a specific student. But we're definitely part of that team once things sort of persist outside of just, struggling with one section of a math chapter. All right, how can I help my student deal with stress? I guess this stress and anxiety, they seem to be over the years kind of the topic that keeps coming up in our community is maybe, the number one thing that we see getting in the way of students having happy, successful careers in high school. And I would say one of the most important things you can do as a parent is just pay attention to your student. And, you've been doing this for the last, 14 years or so, but, paying attention to them when they don't know it and seeing if you see any signs of sadness or depression. Are they sleeping more than normal, or are they eating less or more than normal? Do they seem like they're always in a rush, or that there's never enough time for anything? Big ones are those stomach issues. Unfortunately, I see a lot of students kind of present with that physical stomach ailment when it's really just stress or anxiety. And obviously, if you start noticing that drugs and alcohol are something that you're catching them doing quite a bit or a couple of times, then that's something where it might be time to start looking into seeing if there's something going on there. Obviously the drugs and alcohol thing is going to come up in high school for many students. It's something that we definitely think it's important for the parents to pay attention to. And if it is getting in the way of their academics, obviously we want to be able to support you with that. And more importantly, if it's getting in the way of their mental health. So some things that help. Setting up just a weekly school and work schedule. So just helping them keep track of what their week looks like and helping them keep track of the best ways to manage assignments and manage chores and manage other responsibilities. And hopefully that's kind of a teaching thing where they kind of start learning how to do that on their own. Set up a sleep and electronic schedule. That's huge. We hear so often about students who are up at 4 a.m. texting or on social media or even looking up fantasy football stats, whatever it is. We know that the electronics get in the way of sleep and they get in the way of relationships and a lot of things. So trying to keep that habit under control. Just be realistic with the students. I mean, again, we all know what our students' strengths are and where their challenges are, and just kind of helping them fill in where those challenges are and really trying to play off of those strengths to build on the challenges. But letting them know, like, hey, it's okay to step back and take a break. You don't need to do all of these things at once. Focusing on the effort and focusing on the work that they're putting in over the final result. That's a huge one. probably if you've read any of those parenting books, that's one that is on the first couple of pages, but it really is important to keep track of. I find myself, saying to my daughter all the time, "Oh, you're so smart, and works to an extent, but obviously we want them to know that we are more impressed by the effort that they're putting in rather than what the end result is. We all have setbacks. It's temporary and solvable, and just letting them kind of key in on the fact that these things all come to an end. These problems are all short-lived. Keeping up with activities outside of school and participating in sports or dance or music or whatever it is that keeps your student moving and they're socially engaged and having fun. Obviously, it helps with their mental health, it helps with their social health. And we find that when they're active outside of school, it helps them kind of manage their time a little bit better too, as long as we're kind of keeping all of that in check. Healthy eating, getting a lot of sleep, and really taking advantage of their resources. We're here for them. Wellness is here for them. We want to be kind of that person that's got their back throughout the next 4 years. So make sure to have them come see us. We would love for them to just come and pop in and say, "Hey, I'm Gary, I'm Johnny, I'm Sue. I just want to come in and meet my counselor and say hi." So anyway, thank you.
Hey, I'm Sheila Souter. Hi, welcome everyone. I want to say, I realize we're giving you a lot of information, and I want you all to know that within the next couple of days, you're going to get a copy of this slide deck. We're going to have it in both English and in Spanish. We're going to email it home, as well as all of the questions that are coming through in the chat room. So if you missed a few things or you came in late, don't worry, it's all going to come your way along with the video of this presentation. So I just want to say how happy we are that so many of you are here with us tonight, and there are lots of places you can get more information. So if someone else can handle the admit while I'm talking, that would be super helpful. I'm not the world's best multitasker, so I want you to know that we have a great counseling website. It has a lot of information on it, and Sandy Howard manages that for us. So we'll put all of our events and programs on there. We'll put copies of all of our slide decks, copies of all of our videos. Everything's going to be up there for you. There's a link to a lot of college resources. Lisa Newmeyer has a terrific college and career website. And there's an overview of all the services that we offer each year. So every year we focus on something a little bit different with your students. And every year the focus is on helping them as they grow into young adulthood to become more responsible, more mature, better decision makers. We realize that not all of their decisions are going to be fantastic. And that is something we expect and acknowledge. And we actually enjoy that they take some risks, they try new things, not everything works out. And we're going to help them sort of manage all that change as they go through the next 4 years together in partnership with you. We have a couple of Instagrams for those of you who are tech savvy. Molly Baker manages our AWHS counseling Instagram. And so she'll be placing updates on there for you. So please follow our counseling Instagram there. And then Lisa Newmeyer handles the @AWHS College and Career Instagram. So for all of the college and career happenings, there'll be updates there. Please follow that one. Hopefully we'll get to use those a lot more this year since we're getting more into that. So this slide is one of my favorite slides to talk about, and we call it Gary's Not Ready. And Gary is an imaginary student who we talk about a lot in counseling, and because no one is named Gary or has been for years at AWHS. So every year as counselors, we get a parent call that says, "I know you want to encourage Gary to be a self-advocate, but he is not like other kids. He's just not ready. He won't get in touch with you. He's never talks to adults. He doesn't like that." And we understand how Gary might feel that way, because at 13 or 14, this is a whole new world. But what we want you to do is trust that you've done an exceptional job parenting Gary up to this stage, or your student, whatever his name, whatever their name is. And we want you to say to your student, "I am really confident in your ability to walk into the counseling office and to just walk right into Molly's office or Sheila's or Kyle's. Introduce yourself. And if they're not there when you walk in, we have little passes, like little tiny notes that they can leave us a little note and say they want to see us. And that's the way they're going to get to know us. The best way for them to get to know us is to just come in and start talking to us. And we're going to help them to get comfortable. Some students right off the bat at 13 and 14 are super comfortable walking in, introducing themselves, telling us all about their lives. And that's great, but not everyone is. And we understand that. And so one of the things to make sure that you assure your students of is that we do this job because we love working with teenagers. We get a lot of joy out of it. It's fulfilling for us. It's something we want to do. We're here to be advocates for them and to help serve them as they get through kind of these next 4 years that are really exciting and fun and sometimes a little rocky and shaky. And so that's what we're here to do, and that's what we want to do. So please, if you want to send an email, maybe instead you could sit down with Gary and help him send the email, okay? So that it comes directly from the student to us, and then we will make sure to reach out and connect with your student. Great. So how can students connect with us? Some students say, I don't even know where the counseling office is. So the counseling office is in room 219. We're in the second corridor, in the second hallway. They can just drop in and see us. We encourage them to just walk up to our doors. Hey, hi, I'm Sheila. I want to meet you. If we're not there or if we're meeting with another student, they can leave a note for us. They can email us. And we leave a portion of every day open for drop-ins or student emergencies, things that, something arises every day when you have 1,300 teenagers in one place. There's always someone who's got something going on. So every day, lots of kids drop by our office. You'll hear your student maybe will say, well, Kyle is always busy, so I don't want to go in there and bug him. Kyle wants you to go in there and bug him. We're always going to be busy, all four of us, but we are never too busy for your student. We will make time in our day to make sure that if they have something they need to talk about, we will be able to help them with that. Okay, we're happy to set up an appointment in advance if they have a whole list of questions. Some students like to keep a tally in their notes section of their phone of all the questions they want to ask Molly and bring them in. Some kids just want to pop in every time they have a question and ask one each day. Whatever works for your student is great. But again, our preference is really to have your student to come in and do the communicating and assure them that there are no negative questions or bad questions. All questions are good questions, and we will do our best to answer them. For parents this year, we are not going to have any in-person parent meetings. So if you want to talk with us, please shoot us an email, give us the best phone number to reach you at. We'll give you a call, or you could call us, or we could set up a Zoom meeting if you really want to look at us. We can always do that too. We have the technology for that. And anytime we have a meeting, we generally like to include the student. So if we do set up a Zoom meeting, we're going to want to do it at a time where your student can Zoom in too, because they are the main focus of our attention. They're the main attraction and the star of the show. And so we want to be always talking to them, not talking about them. Same goes for when you email us. If you email us a question about your student, generally when I reply to a parent's email, I also CC the student, and all of your students have an email. Like ssouter so the students is student@tamdistrict.org. So we'll add your student in so that they see what the question is and what the answer is, so they can always be part of the conversation about their educational journey. Okay. And we really hope that you'll attend all the school events for your student's grade level. And if you want to come to an event that's not at your student's grade level, come to that too. We are welcome to anything that we put out there and anything we provide. Okay. Let's see, additional support services. I think this might be Molly Yasuda. So let's welcome Molly.
Great. Hi, I'm Molly Yasuda. I'm the other Molly at the end of the alphabet. Sometimes that gets confusing, but Molly and I have worked together for many years now, so we've worked it all out. Aside from us as counselors, there are many supports on campus, some of which we've already touched on, but I'm going to go over a few just so you know and can maybe bring this up with your student. They will also eventually be aware, if they aren't already, of all the supports that are on campus. So one big support we have is a class called Peer Resource. So That is made up mostly of 11th and 12th graders. There are some 10th graders in there, and it's part of our leadership program. The students are trained in there to want to be peer educators, peer mediators. They want to be a force on campus to help students feel comfortable, but also to support students' mental health, social well-being, all of that. Oftentimes we might refer a student to another peer resource student if they're feeling a little bit stuck and they think that maybe talking to somebody closer to their age would be a benefit in the situation. Or sometimes we might call on peer resource if a student has been sitting alone at lunch for a couple days or it comes to our attention, just so that we can make sure that they're connecting with other students. And the peer resource students often have good ideas of how they can get connected both to others and just to the community in general. Another place, which all of your students have already participated in, is called Crew, which is part of our tutorial. So Crew is the first part of tutorial on Wednesdays. And that is the same group of 25 students and teacher they stay with the entire year. And that's sort of like the old homeroom, I guess. They listen to some announcements. They often bring food. They talk to one another about what's going on, both on campus and in their daily lives. And then that rolls in from Crew to tutorial. So on Wednesday's tutorial, there are 2 periods of tutorial. And that is time when your student can go get extra help from a class, maybe that they have some questions in, maybe they were out and they need to make up a test so they could go to that class and take the test. Or they can just remain in their Crew and get some homework done. Other things that were mentioned, so I'll just briefly go through them. The homework club, we're hoping it will happen and we will absolutely get information out to you. In the past, that has been something that has been after school 2 days a week, and it's gone till about 4:45. There has been at least one credentialed teacher in there, as well as peer tutors. So those are students who have identified themselves as being very capable in one subject or another, and they've decided that they would like to be peer tutors in the homework club, and they are actually paid for that position. So I really encourage your students, when we get that up and running, to go there, because it's a great free resource that we have on campus. There is a list of tutors that are in the community on our counseling website, and Sandy Howard maintains that list. I would always encourage students, if they're looking for tutors, to call or email or Zoom with a few to find a good fit for you, both financially. Many have sliding scales, as well as, what kind of person might be good to work with your student. There are peer tutors in probably not all 9th grade classes, but many 9th grade classes at this point. So this is, again, usually upperclassmen who've identified that they want to be a peer tutor on campus, and they spend one of their classes during the day in a, algebra class or a living earth class or an English 1-2 class, and they help the students out. And they get a grade for that, and they usually have are really become an integral part, both in terms of a leadership position in that class, but also somebody for our 9th graders to look up to. Advisory tutorial I touched on. And then another big support is our wellness center. So hopefully you guys have all heard about this. I believe our wellness center has been there for 5 years, but I could be wrong. It could be 6 at this point. And it's something that we brought in, just noticing the increase in anxiety and depression amongst teens, but also just we had looked at San Francisco, who had this wellness program, and just thought it would be a great addition to our campuses. And honestly, I cannot imagine our life as counselors without them now. We are constantly introducing students to wellness, referring them to wellness, and I'll talk about their services in a second. And really, it's also just a place physically on campus where students can go in, take a break, get a cup of tea, either collect themselves or just have a moment. There's all sorts of art supplies in there, and we have a great team in there. So Katrina is the wellness coordinator for Archie Williams, and then Danya sits in there. She's our outreach specialist. She works, she's sort of the front person that a student would see when they come in. Jessica Colvin runs the wellness program for the whole TAM Unified School District. And then we have a bunch of different community partners that we work with. So I know we work with Huckleberry House, we work with the SPAR Center, we work with some of the nurses from Dominican and UCSF. So there's a lot of community partnership that goes into the Wellness Center. So here's a list of really direct services that wellness provides. Obviously, there's counseling. As Sheila mentioned, or maybe it was Molly earlier, if a student feels like they want to talk to somebody on a more regular basis, either once a week or once every 2 weeks for a 50-minute period of time, then we really would refer them to the Wellness Center to work with one of our therapists on campus. And so that is done through wellness. There is both individual and groups that go on. The groups have not started yet this year, but in the past there has been a grief group, an LGBTQT plus group, a students of color group. It depends on the year and where there is interest and what the providers deem would be a good group to support on campus. Wellness also provides drug and alcohol counseling, both individually and in groups, as well as working with peer resource to go out into the classrooms and provide this to all 9th and 10th graders through their social issues class. Obviously, crisis and support and intervention, our wellness is really leaned on. Every month, there is a sexual and reproductive health day. So it is usually on a Friday, and students can sign up to get appointments. And that's with some of the nurse providers, either from Dominican or UCSF. And that's a great service that Wellness has been able to provide. And then they do also just some case management. If there are some tricky situations that your students in, they can reach out and talk with providers that you may have already set up for your student and work in more of a case management model. And lastly, they work really closely with our peer resource program. They also have had in the past their own youth advisory program. I'm not sure that is quite up and running yet, but I'm sure they will get that going. I also know that some students spend, usually when they're in 11th or 12th grade, they work as a TA, a teacher's assistant in the Wellness Center, so they can help with some of the projects that Wellness is working on. So I touched on some of this already, but our Wellness really works in tandem with peer resource to provide classroom workshops and presentations, and those range in variety from talking about healthy relationships, healthy decision-making, the teenage brain. I know there's one on drugs and alcohol, suicide prevention, and a myriad of different topics that are good for our teenagers to get some education around, particularly in the 9th grade. As I said, there will hopefully be some leadership opportunities with the Wellness Youth Advisory Board, and those students help Katrina and Danya figure out what supports they really feel like students would utilize, and then also how to disseminate that education out into both the smaller Archie Williams community as well as beyond that. We are working with them all the time. They consult with teachers. We have a bi-weekly meeting where wellness is part of our counseling meeting to talk about students. And as parents, you are welcome to contact the wellness coordinators at any time if you have questions, or you might want to talk to them about your individual student. they are constantly coming out with new partnerships, which is awesome in the community. Most of those are actually volunteer partnerships. So some of them the district does pay, but some of them, like I know the nursing program, that those nurses are coming for free to Archie Williams to support our students. I had a thought and it will come back to me. So anyhow, just want you to know that wellness has a lot to offer in terms of support for our students. And we encourage your students both to check it out, to go into the physical space and see what it has to offer. They do have a really good website that is on the Archie Williams website, which you as parents, please check out. And then again, you, if there are questions or concerns about your individual student, you absolutely can contact us, but you can also contact Wellness, and we work very closely with them. So another but very different service that we offer to Archie Williams students and their families is a program called Naviance. And Naviance is a web-based college and career program that everybody has access to. Lisa Newmeyer, who's our college and career specialist, will send out an email to parents to let them know how to set up their Naviance accounts. And she will also do the same with ninth graders, as well as I know she's going to eventually have all the ninth graders cycle through the College and Career Center so she can give them some more information, both about what she does, but also about Naviance. So really, as in the ninth grade, we want them to be focusing on the exploration part of Naviance, meaning we'd love them to take some of the interest inventories or do the career searches or personality profile, Myers-Briggs type tests that they offer. We want them to look at, what strengths they already have, what interests they have, and how they can channel that as they go through high school. Obviously, a big piece of Naviance also has to do with the college searches, and that is its own part of the program, which is very robust, and we really lean into more in the 11th and 12th grade for the students.
Are you ready to give it back to me, Molly?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so I'm Sheila Souter again, and I'm just going to go over the last few things. They're kind of informational, and this will all be in the email you get at home. But when you're concerned about your students' grades or progress or an assignment that doesn't make sense or anything that has to do with what's going on in the classroom, please have your student contact their teacher as a first course of action. If you email Sheila or Molly or Kyle and say, I don't know what today's English assignment is, well, we won't either. So that's a level of detail that we are not going to know. We want you to be on the Canvas platform if possible. Your student can show you how to do that, or you can put in a help ticket to our tech personnel.
There is actually on the homepage, there is a how to join Canvas for parents. So I would go there first.
Good.
Before a help ticket.
Thank you, Molly.
Yeah.
And then if you're going to take your student to the dentist, to the doctor, to grandpa's birthday celebration, whatever it is, if there's an attendance issue, please contact Mark Machado directly. He handles all of the attendance issues for students. It's nice sometimes when people CC the counselor if there's a major event, like if your student is hospitalized for several days, and then we're going to want to check in when they return. But if it's just things like dentist and doctor's appointments or leaving early, you don't need to include the counselor in that. Just contact Mark Machado. We have a lot of athletics happening, and we have a new athletic director this year. His name is Jet Russell. He's really nice. So any questions about athletic eligibility, timelines, tryouts, how to GPA qualifications, etc., please contact Jet Russell directly. Everyone's email is, as you can see on the screen, see how Brittany Mullery's email is listed as bmullery@tamdistrict.org. That's all of us. Everyone is first initial, last name @tamdistrict.org. So any of your students' teachers, the administrators, the athletic director, that's how you contact them. If you want a current copy of your student's transcript, well, and as a ninth grader, they don't have a transcript yet because they don't have any grades. So don't have to worry about that part. But later on, Sandy Howard would handle that for your student. Every one of your students has an assistant principal assigned to them. It's either going to be Chad Stewart or Nate Severin, depending on which SLC they're in. So that should be somewhere on their class schedule. If you want to know who that is, you could always just email one of them, or your student could come in and ask their counselor. And then the staff phone list as well as email list is on the Archie Williams website. So take a look at that. There's a link on the homepage to get to that contact information. But we know a lot and we want to help with a lot of things, but we don't know everything. So these people up here on the screen are going to help you with a bunch of things that we don't do. Okay. So one of the things we don't do is grade your student, which is great. So we're never judging them and giving them grades, but their teachers are giving them grades, and you're sometimes going to want to see those. So 6 times a year, there are going to be grades put into the Canvas system and into the Synergy system. And so about every 5 weeks or so, we have what's called a progress report. So the first one's going to come out in about 2 or 3 weeks. And that is just what I called it, a progress report. It is not a permanent grade. It's just a little snapshot of where your student is 6 weeks into school. Okay, so don't get alarmed if your child's name is Sheila and my report card comes home and I have 2 D's and a C. That doesn't mean I'll end the semester with 2 D's and a C. It means maybe I haven't been doing my homework or studying or finishing my projects. And so we need to kind of tweak what's going on at home in terms of the structure and where I sit, and maybe take my phone away from me so that I can get my homework done. So the first 2 progress reports you'll receive are just that, progress reports before a final grade. And the third one is a report card. And the first set of permanent grades comes out in January, and therefore August through December work that is done. And the second set of permanent grades comes out in June, and that's for January through June for the spring semester. So there are 2 sets of permanent grades every year, and there are 6 sets of grades every year, 4 of those being progress reports. If you want to keep closer tabs, again, you can go into Canvas. I will caution you not to look at your students' grades every day. It would be a little bit stress-inducing. It would be a little overwhelming, and not every teacher is upgrading their grades on a daily basis. So we have to be patient with the teachers. We have a brand new system. We have to be patient with the students because they're getting used to a brand new system. So a lot of things, there's going to be a little bit of lag time this year on that information. Please check your parent square. I think I called it Community Compass in an earlier slide, and I meant to say parent square. So there are emails that are going to come home with information. There's a lot of information for a 14-year-old to try to digest coming in through email. So as a parent, one of the really helpful things you can do is scan through it and then maybe sit down over breakfast on Saturday morning when you're making Mickey Mouse pancakes and say, okay, I've read through a bunch of parent squares and there's 2 really important things for you to know. One is there's a soccer game this afternoon. If you want to go to it, that could be really fun. And the other is club days coming up next Wednesday during tutorial and lunch, right? Maybe they don't need to know all the other details of what's going on with the Falcon Foundation and stuff like that. That's just kind of beyond them at 14. There's a lot of information on that Canvas platform about students' attendance, their grades, their assignments, etc. So dig into that with them, have them sort of lead you through it because they've all been given information on how to access it all. And your 14-year-old is going to know more about it than any of the 4 of us counselors at this point in terms of the Canvas, okay? Another thing that's really important is back to school night. It's going to be in 2 nights and it's live and in person. So we really hope that you will each get your student's schedule, either have it on your phone, have a photo of it, or have a printout of it, because they're not going to provide printouts at Archie Williams when you get there. You're going to need to know where to go, and you're going to have to hit the ground running. You're going to have 10 minutes in each class with each teacher, and the schedule's going to go 0, 2, 4, 6, 1, 3, 5, 7. That seems a little odd, but your student knows that that's what a Monday schedule looks like. So they can help you and show you where they are each of those periods. Maybe take a look at the map so that if you're way up in the 600s and you've got to get down to the 400s, you give yourself enough time and wear comfortable shoes. The hallways are concrete and 5 minutes isn't a very long passing period, as your student well knows on a Monday. but we're excited about back to school night, and we hope you enjoy meeting all your students, teachers then. Okay. We know that you're going to have a lot of questions. I think the chat has about 16 questions in it already. One thing that that has happened this year with all of this new technological implementation is there are several platforms where you could email people. And as your 4 counselors working with your students, we're going to use one of those platforms only. We're going to use our email at mbaker@tamdistrict.org, etc. We are not going to use Synergy or Parent View or Canvas. We are only using the Outlook email. So please be aware that our emails are here listed. Please get that email and only use that when communicating with us, okay? Because we just can't check all those places, and we don't even have access to the Canvas ones at the moment. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. And now what we're going to do is Molly Baker is going to she's going to let us know what some of the questions are, and then each of us are going to take a question or two, and we're going to put all of these questions and answers in an email to you as well that we're going to send out later in the week. So Molly, shoot us some questions, please.
All right. So in 2 places, people asked, how do we find out who our student's counselor is?
That's a great question, and I'm going to answer it because the answer is have your student come into the counseling office and ask. So we had a 9th grade boy this week come in, and he ran up to Molly Baker and said, "Are you my counselor?" And she said, "No." And he ran to Molly's student and said, "Are you my counselor?" And she said, "No, I'm not." And he came to me and said, "Are you my counselor?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he sat down and had a great conversation with me, told me a lot about himself. I got to know him. It was a great connection. And I thought, that's terrific. And he is 13. And he was super capable of being a good self-advocate and making sure that he knew who his counselor was and that I knew who he was. So that's what we'd like you to do. We're sure it's somewhere on that Synergy platform or Canvas, but we don't know yet what your student's Synergy platform looks like. So please have them just come on down to counseling and say, "Hey, who's my counselor?" And we'll help them out.
Yeah, just to add to that, please bear with us as we're learning this new system. It just was implemented right before the school year started. So as we were kind of figuring out schedule changes and all of those sorts of things, we were learning how to do it on the fly. And counselor name used to be on your student schedules that they received, but now they are not. So we're still learning as well. So we appreciate having
Building the plane as we fly it.
All right, the next question is, people want to know what's the difference between Parent View and Canvas, and do they need to be on both?
Yes, I'll take this. So the difference is that Parent View is going to give you basic information like students' schedule. Eventually, when there are grades posted for the grading periods, those will be on there, their transcripts. And contacts for it. It should also say the counselor and their assistant principal on there. Canvas is created by each individual teacher of theirs, and that will have the syllabus on there. It will have class assignments, upcoming information about tests, and then it should also have a grading portion on there. Most teachers use Canvas to keep track of their day-to-day grades. Eventually, that grade from Canvas at the reporting period goes over to Synergy and is posted on Parent and Student View. And the logins for that, I know were sent out. So again, on Archie Williams, the homepage, there is a how to get on Canvas. Naviance has not gone out yet. That will go out through Lisa Newmeyer. It will come in an email, and it will tell you how to log in there. Brittany Mullery, who it was on an earlier slide, but her email is bmullery@tamdistrict.org. If you're having trouble logging into your Synergy after you've already perhaps gone through all the steps and done it, she's a person that could help you with that.
All right. Someone asked when the club fair is. The date has not been set. So we will make sure to communicate with you when that day has been set. The next question. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to jump in. Parent View is different than Parent Square, and that Parent Square is where the way communication is going out. But I think that's also part of Parent View. I could be, maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But if, for instance, Lysandra White sends an email, it goes out through Parent Square. And if you are looking up information about your student's schedule, that's going to be on Parent View.
All right, the next question is, can a teacher request that a student see them during Wednesday tutorial if the teacher sees the student needs help, but is not seeking it out on their own?
Yes. So yeah, and that's one of our best interventions that we have is tutorial time, and teachers will often request that a student comes and sees them during their tutorial.
Sometimes they don't always follow through, but
Well, yeah.
but yes, the teacher. Someone asked, is there one calendar to rule them all?
Ooh, that is such a great question. And the answer is, in our dreams, there is one. But in our reality, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot for someone who is really organized and efficient with great executive functioning. So imagine being 14, scattered, stressed. You've got a phone, you've got the computer, you've got Canvas, Parent View, Parent Square, emails, and you're trying to have a social life. There's a lot to manage. And no, there is not one calendar that rules them all. So the calendar on the Archie Williams website is a great place to look and see the major events coming down the pike. But then the Canvas calendar is what rules what's happening in each separate classroom. So your student might have 8 calendars they're trying to deal with, not to mention their athletics and their social life, which is part of why we would really like you to stay engaged in kind of helping them with that executive functioning this year as they sort of transition into young adulthood and trying to figure it out on their own, because it's not easy. And we're definitely aware that there's a lot coming at them really quickly, and at you too, as parents. It's confusing, and we're even confused. That's why we're saying only use this one email, because we just can't track all of those other places.
All right, thank you. The next question is there a time scheduled every week or month with each student, or is it up to the student to initiate the contact?
So there is not a designated time each week or month that we meet with the students individually. Our hope is that, and our goal is to meet with every freshman at some point during the school year. And that's if, whether they're coming to us or not. You know, we're hoping at some point that we're able to pull in each student to kind of have an introduction, get to know them in a small conversation, whether that's individually or in like a little group. But we are available whenever your student wants to chat. So if your student has a question, we just encourage them to come into our office, and you know, if my door's open, I'd love for them to just pop in. But if the door's closed and I'm busy, or if I'm, you know, in another meeting, and I think the other counselors feel the same way, there's just a little note there in our main office where they can drop in a note, and we'll pull them at an appropriate time. Or they can send us an email and we'll set up an appointment at that time too.
Can I just add something that at every grade level, at every year, we do have a meeting set up. So we're going to be meeting all of the freshmen on a Monday in, I think the first Monday in October. They're all going to leave their PE class and come, and we're going to do a presentation, an overview kind of like this. And then we're going to try to meet them one-on-one. And then sophomore year, we do another meeting where we have a presentation for them. Junior year, we have about 15 workshops that we do in the spring of junior year, because that's a really busy time. And then senior year, we have a lot of workshops too. So as they progress through the 4 years, we have a lot more time with them. This year, we're hoping to get that transition meeting in, meet them one-on-one. But if you're looking for a one-on-one meeting every week, if your student is looking for that, as Molly Asuda said earlier, that would be something they do with wellness. We have a caseload of about 350 students each. So we have, each of us has about 80 or 90 students at each grade level, and we don't meet with them every single week. but we do have a lot of services if they need to see someone. The Wellness Center is certainly one of those. And again, if they just need to drop in for a couple of times a week, 1 week, then yeah, we want to see them. But we definitely have a big presentation for them every year. And as they progress, we have more of those.
All right, someone asked if they can get a recording of this session, and yes, we currently are recording, and we will be sending this out to you all after later on this week. The next question is, should students come to back to school night?
The
No,
answer to that is not all, well, students don't have to come, they're not expected to. However, we are having translators this year for those who would like to have the English speaking teachers translated into Spanish. If you need that service, it's available. And if your student, if you are a parent who does not speak English as a first language and you would like your student to come and translate, they are more than welcome to attend with you and translate whatever is being said in the classroom.
There was some confusion about the zero period. So not all students have a zero period. In fact, very few students do, but that's on the back to school night schedule. The only 2 classes that are offered during zero period are band or PE. If your student has PE in 6th period, then that's when you should go to their PE class. So just ignore the part that says zero period unless you know that your student has a zero period. Students have to wake up at 7:30 to be there for a zero period class. So let's see, I think we answered a lot of these. There's questions about the pairing code, and I know that that's on the main school website, and I think students have to log into Canvas in order to see their pairing code. And then, yes, I think it says, do we need to sign up separately for Canvas and Parent View? And I think the answer is yes for that. Is that correct, everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, and I do think that one of your students' SLC teachers, so one of their English, social studies, or science teachers are really good people to go to get some Canvas information as well. I found that last year going to, say, Raquel Nelson, who's one of the social studies teachers, and having her sort of guide through through Canvas was a lot more helpful than one of us trying to do it.
All right.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So I think we're going to wrap it up and say thank you very much, everyone, for attending. We are going to send out later this week all of the Q&A. First, we're going to have it translated, so it's going to take a couple of days. We're going to send this slide deck out in both English and Spanish, and the video recording will be sent home, and it's going to be on YouTube, so it could also be translated into any one of about 1,000 languages. So it's going to hopefully be accessible to everyone, and we really appreciate you coming out. And we hope to see you in future years, since we're not going to see you in person this year, parents. But we really are looking forward to meeting your students and working with them and working together to help them have a great transition to high school. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Look forward to meeting you all.
Who was yelling at
kids.
you? Maybe it's just talking loudly, but I felt like he was yelling at me when I did something wrong.
And so, Kyle, have you stopped the recording?
Still recording, but we can